Hey guys, how we doing? So we're back on another Mother's Basement video, another What's in an OP video. I'm absolutely loving this. I'm just so buzzing on Jojo's stuff at the moment. It's just so good. I'm about to start part 5, but I'm not going to start part 5 until next week. We have watched the Mother's Basement cheat sheet thing that he's done. So it's like what you should watch up, how, you know, refresh your memory on. I think it'd be cool because obviously I've seen 1 to 4 now, but I thought it'd be cool to have a little bit of a recap and we can recap together, and then I'm going to get into part 5. Boom. Until then, we're doing What's in an OP for Jojo's Diamond is Unbreakable. So good. I felt like this season wasn't as good as part 3, but the villain was so interesting. I absolutely loved him. So let's just get into this. What?
Hey guys!
No, wait, what the hell?
Ready to full PC of yours?
Best friend by Saibatsu.
Come on, guys, come on. It's not that bad.
Oh,
it's really not that bad.
No, it is, but this is
I used to love these guys.
under attack by an enemy.
It's the strongest one we've ever faced.
No way.
Stronger than Saint Anger? But how? Oh, there's shit in my pants.
Oh no.
Oh, I get it now. Who would do such a thing to us?
Oh, Liam. Woolie. This is brilliant.
To us.
そして時は動き出す私のスタンド僕のイラプション
Hey Matt, isn't that Mother's Basement guy? Doesn't that guy still live with his mother? I really liked your Gravity Falls video, like a lot. Thanks, man.
貧弱
We were already gonna do that though.
Oh my god, this is amazing.
Really? Yeah, man, I told you about it. We were looking forward to it.
Brilliant.
We were super down. Yeah. Oh shit, man, I'm sorry. I was just talking to Takahata, and then he poked me with the stand arrow, and...
Wait, are they still a thing?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, wow, this got really out of hand.
Oh, this is brilliant. I can't believe they did a video together.
You better come do What's an OP with me now anyway. This stand's a long-range automatic type, and it's not going to stop until the YouTube crossover happens.
Right.
That's weirdly specific. Yeah, it's a stand.
Weirdly specific. Yes, it's a stand. That makes sense. That's amazing. They always are, aren't they? Awesome.
Well, Jeff, I know you're threatening me and all, but I'm still pretty damn excited to help you analyze the Diamond is Unbreakable openings.
Same here, and there's a lot to unpack in these things in terms of references and foreshadowing, so we should get into that fast unless we want to be here all day.
I guess that means there'll be spoilers in this video.
Yes, there will, and lots of them too. So if you at home aren't caught up on Jojo yet, you might want to stream it on Crunchyroll before watching this.
Do it.
Which you can do free for 30 days by signing up for a trial at crunchyroll.com/basement.
That was a great
First half was a bit
segue,
slow,
Jeff.
but
Excellent form.
You
yeah.
have taught me well, Woolie Sensei.
Now, when you say there's a lot to unpack, you're talking about Chase and Great Days, right? Crazy Noisy Bizarre Town's pretty simple.
At first blush, it might look like it, but Crazy Noisy Bizarre Town has a lot more going for it than just a funky song. Take, for example, the first shot of the heroes posing.
Yeah?
Yeah, it makes them look heroic and cool,
Yeah, it does.
but if you look at how they're arranged, you see that it reinforces the theme of passing the torch to a new generation.
Oh, I suppose it does,
While the
yeah.
old hero, Jotaro,
Is at the back.
fades into the background.
But you can't ignore the way they're posed, with their fingers pointed towards the sky. This imagery comes up time and time again throughout these OPs, and I think the slow reveal of what it means is pretty cool.
Damn straight it is, and we'll get to that. But first, let's take in this sequence where we jump through the town of Morio and every
So
single
cool.
stand user flies by in a manner not dissimilar to the spirits we see flying through the afterlife.
Right, yeah,
And
okay,
there's
that makes
Kira,
sense.
blending in with the rest of them. He's mixed in such a way that he's almost totally unnoticeable.
Which is how he
You
wants to
know
live his
who
life.
look for, just the way he likes it.
There you go.
As the stand users and locations zip by and the song builds to its first break, we zoom in through the clouds from a bird's eye view of the town, the perspective of whatever it is that everyone is pointing at.
Jeff, stop being coy.
All
The
right,
ghost.
all right.
Okay, that
As
makes
we
sense.
See in the final OP, Great Days, the thing in the clouds that everyone's looking at and pointing towards is Raymane, along with the rest
Yeah.
of the people who've died over the course of the story. The constant
Makes
pointing
sense.
alludes to an unwavering focus on finding justice for the dead.
Except for Grandpa Higashikata.
Yeah, they just kind of pretend he never existed, huh? That's a little fucked up.
Moving on, we see the point in town that the camera's been zooming toward. The fountain in front of the train station, where Jotaro finds Josuke and the whole story begins.
Following that,
Oh,
we see
yeah.
a shot of Josuke walking through the crowd in front of the station. It's mostly just an introduction to his character, but hey, do you think that could be Kira in the crowd?
I don't know, maybe. I
There's the turtle
you
from
could
the
just be
first
reaching,
episode.
But as long as we're vague, no one can say we're wrong.
No, you
There's
can't.
definitely some meaning to these signs behind Josuke, though. Moving left
Oh.
to right, we see Okuyasu's $sign symbol
Yeah.
on a split turning sign, alluding to the power
Is
of the
that
hand
Killer
to
Queen?
close space together. Then there's Killer Queen's
Yeah.
sheer heart attack logo, and a no U-turn sign telling us not to turn around in Raimi's alleyway.
Oh, of
And there's
course.
a sign that reads,
Yes.
"Out, out, ah," with a Joestar star, along with an arrow pointing backwards from Josuke, implying that Jotaro is in the past, maybe.
It's kind of a missed opportunity that they didn't use a stop sign there.
Yeah, it kinda is. Next to that, we see Rohan's pen over Josuke's shoulder, Crazy Diamond
Oh.
symbol with do-da-da-da-da-da over the top of it, and then a hand-on-heart symbol that represents Lucky
Also,
Land's communication.
that was Thingy's
Josuke makes
earring
a
on
heroic-looking
that as
dramatic
well.
turn, and then we're introduced to his sidekicks Okuyasu and Koichi. In their shadows, we can see the darker things that these characters
Yeah, it's like his
have
dad
haunting
and that, like,
them.
yeah.
In Koichi's case, it's his stalker Yukako, and in Okuyasu's, it's his dead brother and mutated father.
His dad, yeah.
The shadows of Okuyasu's problems fade away,
He just kicks
however,
him.
while Koichi's remains, just as Yukako ends up staying in his life.
Yeah.
Okuyasu kicks over a can with a picture of Josuke on it. I can't spot a direct reference here aside from the pose, but missing poster images does add to the air of mystery. From here, each of our heroes gets a chance to pose for the camera. Once
So
Koichi's
cool.
stand, Echoes, appears in the show, it shows up in
Yeah,
One
it's not
Piece-
there straight away, is
I
it?
think you'll find it's called reverb, Woolie. And there's something else going on here. Each transition shows off the respective stand's powers. Shining Diamond heals the screen together in a diamond
Oh,
pattern.
right, okay, cool.
Koichi makes a sound effect of the word being sung in the song,
Right.
Mystery.
Dude, how awesome is that?
That's so
About
cool.
as awesome as how Okuyasu draws us in using the power of the hand, and Jotaro sends us out with the ripples of his time stop power.
Jotaro
The
also pointing at
world!
the viewer is one of his signature poses, but they framed it cleverly here so that he's also pointing towards Raimi and Justice once again. Now every
So
non-evil
cool, I never
stand
thought about
user
that.
dances by one at a time. Note that Yukako sort of resists leaving the screen by briefly moving backward, which shows that she wants our attention and hints at her eventual return to the story.
This shot looking down at the Morio logo ends up recurring in Great Days, but right now we see some more stand power transitions. Crazy Diamond fixes a wall in front of us, which Echoes appears on as graffiti, and then the hand scrapes it away to bring us to the final shot of our heroes.
Josuke, Koichi, and Okuyasu are all heading towards their school, but they turn away from it as though the mystery of the town is calling to them. At this point, we can't yet tell what they're looking at. The town looks eerily normal, but the clouds that we end on are later revealed to contain their dead friends.
Right.
So, Woolie, one final and very important question. Disco or EDM?
I do appreciate
Ooh.
the remix of the EDM.
There was a
version,
remix one, yeah.
Like, straight up. But the raw 70s funk attitude
I
of the
prefer that
original
one.
Crazy Noisy Bizarre Town
Yeah.
is exactly what I wanted from that tone in Part 4. It's pretty much perfect. And on that note, there's some cool stuff going on with the next song, Chase. If you pay attention to the lyrics, you'll notice that they can apply to either Kira or Josuke's perspective. Lines about things like an everyday peaceful life being stolen away seem to indicate that we're hearing Kira's point of view.
That
Right.
cat and mouse back and forth is reflected in the darker tone of this OP, which is apparent right from the outset. We see the Jojo heart, representing Josuke, wrapped in the thorns of Hermit Purple, representing the legacy of his father, Joseph.
Yep.
In front of it, there's a pulsing heart monitor, representing
Beep.
impending danger.
Beep.
That danger comes to the forefront as the heart monitor breaks apart into electrical sparks from the arc villain stand, Red Hot Chili Peppers.
The dark shift in
So
tone is
cool. I
reflected
love how
in the
they
turnaround
name
of
them
our
after,
heroes, which is a lot
bands
more
and
somber
that.
and drab than the lead
And
into
song
Crazy
names.
Noisy Bizarre Town. And with the arrows around them pointing haphazardly in all directions, we see that as the tone gets darker, the mystery of the plot is also thickening and becoming more confusing.
From the turnaround, we cut to Kira's fridge packed with severed hands, showing us that he's a prolific killer who's been at it for some time. time now.
15 years.
The row of bodies in suitcases further reinforces this idea, while also alluding to his father's knowledge of his crimes. The suitcases are stowed away in the dark, hidden from public view, and end with the trip to Egypt, where Kira's father got the stand arrow and solved the problem of Kira leaving bodies behind.
Coming back to the circle of
makes
heroes,
sense.
each one looks straight into the camera as they pass, except for Joseph, who's totally out of it and just stares at Achtung Baby. The whole crew is shown once again pointing skyward.
Yeah, that really does come up a lot.
Yeah, I told you. And to make the meaning even clearer, this time they're right next to Raimi's alleyway.
Yeah, they are.
Shigechi's still part of the group because he hasn't been murdered yet.
Yeah.
Tsunami's there to... for
Be there?
reasons.
And Yukako isn't pointing at anything because she's focused on Koichi.
Koichi, yeah.
I like the increased focus on group shots in these OPs as they go on. You can always learn more about characters from how they interact with one another than how they act alone.
Rohan is also pointing away from the sky and toward the alleyway with his pen, indicating that he's the first person to find it, and that he has a deeper connection to Raimi.
All the other pictures around the group shot are taken straight from the show. They're reminiscent of the surveillance photos that Rohan takes of Kira, as well as those taken by Kira's dad.
Are they meant to be the tracks from the
duality of the theme song Chase, as do the tracks of sheer heart attack on top of them.
To play up that danger, Kira's hand slaps every photo, burning them all away. The letters on paper that are left behind spell out Jojo's bizarre adventure. Diamond is unbreakable. And it looks like they're written in Shigechi's tickets and coupons.
Speaking of Shigechi, we cut to a shot of him carefree feeding a flock of pigeons.
Poor guy.
Tragically, this is interrupted by a cut to Kira violently trimming his nails.
That's pretty on the nose foreshadowing.
It gets better. If you look at the composition of each shot, you see the point where Kira's nail intersects with the scissors is directly over the place where Shigechi's head was.
Whoa.
Shit, that's cool.
Whoa.
All I noticed the first time I watched this was the reflections of the 3 murdered girls on the surface of Kira's nail.
As we cut back to Shigechi, the scissors are right over his head, and the startled pigeons block out everything else in the frame, making the ominous message doubly clear. This also looks like it could be the park where he runs into Kira.
I love the continuity between these transitions. We see the birds take off in one shot, and then they continue to
taking
fly
off
by
on-
Rohan's window. And then through this bird's eye shot of the road with different characters walking down it.
There's a lot of references in the periphery here. At the top, there's a pile of money alluding to Shigechi's initial conflict with Josuke and Okuyasu, and at the bottom we can see Rat with a cake that has lips on it. Possibly a less gory reference to the way that Rat melts people into meat jelly.
Another rat darts across the screen as we pan right, hinting at the small twist that there are 2 of them. And at the end of the panel, we see Josuke's heart wrapped in hermit purple again. This time with a pile of gift-wrapped presents, which seems significant, but I'm kind of struggling to figure out the meaning. I don't know.
Well, Woolie, the key to that lies in deciphering what we're looking at in the rest of this shot. Notice that we get a bird's eye perspective on this street.
A lot like OV from the last opening.
Yes, but it's not quite the same. See, we're also looking at everything through a scratched up pane of glass, much like a window, which is a fairly specific detail. And the transition away from the Jojo heart sees it being grabbed and torn apart by Killer Queen in an ambush, leaving the vines bleeding behind. So, given all that context...
I'm still not seeing... Oh, no way! No way! Oh...
Yeah, man, this whole sequence shows Shigechi's perspective, looking through the window at Josuke and Okuyasu in his last moments before Kira gets him. The presents at the end even overlap on them in the last moment, showing that the true gift to Shigechi was friendship all along.
I just threw up in my mouth a little bit at the friendship bit, but that aside, holy shit. This blows the whole thing wide open.
Oh, man.
Not unlike how the Jojo heart is blown apart in this moment, representing the damage that this death does to our heroes. That damage is only healed once they finally bring Kira to justice at the end of Great Days.
Following that, we see Echo's Act 3 unleashing 3 frees against Kira, while behind him we're shown silhouettes of Koichi and Toshikazu being attacked by Rohan. Then we cut to Love Deluxe and Cinderella, who turn into Yukako and Aya in Aya's operating room. The shadows over Yukako's face show the places Cinderella will remove from it, and highlight her eyes, which Koichi has to recognize to save her. The line between them is dotted like the marks the doctors make before reconstructive surgery.
Inside that line, we see film strip images of 2 people holding hands, which change to Kira holding a severed hand, and then change again into an image of his father holding the stand arrow.
The arrow,
The film strip imagery represents the fleeting, false nature of the Cinderella love story that Aya and Yukako are obsessed with,
and also foreshadows Aya's death at Kira's hands. As we zoom into the picture of Kira's dad, it transforms once more into Raimi's alleyway, which is rendered in this dope-looking, harsh, sketchy
Yeah, it
style.
looks cool.
It highlights the chaos of this part of the plot, and specifically the chaos swirling around the normal-looking Raimi. Raimi looks distressed for a moment,
She looks
and then
sad.
she's replaced with a ghastly, rough animation of Killer Queen,
Killer Queen,
alluding to
man.
the fact that Kira killed her, which then explodes into a huge burst of arrows representing the different stand users
all the
that
stands,
Kira's
yeah.
father sends after Josuke and friends to protect his son.
Oh, that's cool, yeah, it's
also
like
worth
trying to
noting
avoid
that
them
the
and
tangled
get
mess of
attacked.
arrows comes from behind Raimi, where you'd expect to see the tangled mess of hands that drag your
Kira, if you
soul
turn
into
around,
the
yeah.
afterlife, which happens to be where Kira goes
up,
at the
yeah.
end of the series. So there's a lot
Bye-bye.
of foreshadowing in this one picture. It looks rad as hell when the arrows start hitting our heroes and they brace for impact, but Josuke doesn't even give a fuck.
He's just like, whatevs.
He's so sick of your stand user bullshit. He just is away like 50 stand arrows before rushing
Boom.
after Kira. It's fucking badass. But there's also meaning to it. This final shot of Josuke falling behind as he chases Kira foreshadows the moment that Kira gets away, wearing a new face, his identity now hidden once more.
Which was so
but
cool.
still with the extremely dangerous Killer Queen as part of him, alluded to by the fact that his eye has been replaced by Killer Queen's
Yeah.
eye. Moving into Great Days, we kick off
Break
with a
down,
really
break
cool
down.
shot of Jojo art letters zipping by in
Break
time
down,
with the drum
break
beat.
down.
These stylized letters are sometimes used
That's
in the
so
manga
cool.
itself and are eye-catching on their own, while also doing a good job representing each character. In general, this OP is really good at adding extra meanings to its logos and titles. Each cycle of the breakdown logo exploding and reforming in
Shows
time
new
with the
stuff,
music
yeah.
represents the conflict between Josuke and Kira, one's ability to heal any damage and the other's ability to destroy anything.
Yeah.
In this shot of the shore, in addition to the Jojo stars in the water, you can see a number of landmarks from the show. Boing Boing Cape, the Morio Grand Hotel,
Oh.
the lighthouse, and the train station. Each flash of breakdown shows a different power of Killer Queen.
Yeah.
And in the case
Different
of
techniques
Sheer
you can
Heart
use.
Attack, the way that it was defeated using three freeze with blood dripping down from its mouth as it's crushed. We cut to Kira standing behind Hirohiko Araki's name, then to another breakdown with Stray Cat, and finally, as Kira prepares to trigger his bomb, we see... Woolie, do you have any idea what that is? Maybe? It's really unclear what exactly this head thing represents. It's clearly Kosaku's face. It has his hair, but the symbolism around it is confusing. There's lines on the face that could
Is
be
it meant to
tracks
be like
of
that final
fire from
technique he
Killer
uses?
Queen versus the ambulance
Ooh.
fight, or the glowing thing that obscures his eyes, his mouth, and the brain could be the power of Bites the Dust to hide his secret.
Yeah.
Or those lines of glowing areas could represent Cinderella's surgery to hide his
Yeah,
face.
there's that
It's
as well.
actually really hard to say. Well, as long as we're vague, no one can say we're wrong. Kira prepares to activate his bomb, and we see the heroes standing behind him, all facing away as the new day slowly dawns. This is an allusion to the looped morning caused by Bites the Dust.
Right.
In this transition to the title, it comes together out of broken glass, healing the damage done in Crazy Noisy Bizarre Town. Looking out over the sea, we see the sun represented as an ornate, gargantuan clock face, counting down to Justice O'Clock. We get a better look at this huge timepiece later, but it's worth noting that the hand of the clock is a stand arrow. We see various heroes passing each other in the streets of Moria.
I like how they do the
Signs in
time
street
thing
allude to
again at the
various
end
parts.
as well for
SC
like the
1987 refers to the year that Stardust Crusader starts, DU 1999 to the year that Diamond is Unbreakable starts, and GW 2001 to the start of the next part, Golden Wind, or Vento Ora,
Oh,
which is the next
wow!
part slated to be animated. Outside of these signs, the streets that our heroes walk down are a strange collage of jumbled photos and drawings representing places and moments from the show. Most of the meaning in these shots comes from the brief frames where characters interact and where they seem to.
Isn't
but
this meant
don't.
to be as well
For
that,
instance,
like, stand
Josuke
users
and Okuyasu
always
wave to each other as they
meet?
pass, but as Okuyasu walks further on because they leave a trail of doubles
Stand
behind
users are
them,
always fated
it
to,
looks
like,
as though Josuke is
encounter each
reaching
other.
out to him and being ignored. This may foreshadow the moment that Josuke thinks that his friend is dead.
yeah.
Yukako is walking with the hat she uses to hide
Why
her face
having a
from Koji.
dream at a time like
Goes away,
this?
and then they run into each other. To her surprise, he's happy to see her. The seagulls flying at the top of the screen are also used to mark the passage of time, which will be very important later. So will this shot tracking through Rohan's house, which doesn't seem to have much going on until we go through the door and see the same scene repeated, with Rohan and Masazo pressing their backs up against the wall,
Yeah.
representing Cheap Trick's attack on them, and Nikitaka up to his alien shenanigans on the side of the building. Okay, so wait, is he an alien or not? Sadly, we will never know. And at first blush, it seems like we'll never know the deeper meaning of this shot either.
But that will become apparent once this OP does that thing that JoJo OPs love to do.
Yeah.
Heading over the field to
So
the
cool.
Superfly Tower, we see Toyo Heroes feet up on the wire, a crop circle alluding to Mikitaka, as well as a flying seagull frozen in time. We also see darkness spreading across the land, until we don't. From the second use of this OP onward, they show the darkness receding, the sunlight moving with the camera. That first change made to the OP appears to have been done entirely to correct production errors, or shortcomings caused by not having enough time to finish the OP before the first air date. This is also evident in the lack of a trail behind each character in the next round of character poses.
But before those poses come up, we see an endless loop of Shinobu Kawajiri staring lovingly at the serial killer wearing her husband's face, while Killer Queen closes in on Hayato between them. The TV we see Kira on represents her romantic soap
She
opera
fantasizes
ideal,
about him, yeah.
which Kira is matching where her husband failed.
Yeah.
As for Hayato, around him we see enigmatic figures of his father floating around, alluding to the fact that he doesn't really know who his dad is anymore.
Then, as Raimi points skyward, the sun comes up, the shadows pull away, each hero walks into position and takes one of their iconic poses from the manga. The way that they snap into place and the time trails disappear suggests that this is how things are meant to be.
After these poses, we see Raimi's hand pointed up toward the sky, followed by the rest of the main cast. They're all calling for justice for the fallen, and it's notable that Raimi is the one who starts the hunt for Kira in the first place, and starts the action of pointing skyward.
That's cool.
Then we come back once again to an aerial view of Morio Town Square, only more abstract this time. Here we see it in the form of a motion graphic representing various hero stands. The more important ones form the outer circle, while inside we see lesser stands like the Lock and Achtung.
Oh, right, and the baby
and
and
now,
that, yeah.
finally, everyone, including Koichi's family for some reason, points upward toward the camera, and the big payoff is revealed. We see Raimi, Shigechi, Okuyasu Keicho, and Aya floating in the clouds, the dead for whom the heroes seek justice. And all of them are pointing back, with the implication being that they have been there doing that this whole time.
But poor Grandpa Higashikata gets no love or justice.
Literally who?
Putting that great injustice aside, we get more of that stylized typography spelling out 1999, because that's the lyric being sung in the song. Each number is a stand created by Kira's dad, RPS Kid, Enigma, and Highway Star.
Oh, wow.
I think you mean Highway Go-Go.
Highway Go-Go.
Zooming in, we see Kira.
I think you mean Killa?
Huh, that's weird. Anyway, whatever he's called, we see him and his stand being blinded by the light of justice. One more change for the second version of the OP is that he's flipped from right to left between iterations. In the first version, he's not blinded by the light, and he doesn't call out Killer Queen.
Also in the first version, we see each stand take turns attacking him, while in the second, we see them line up on the sun clock with Hermit Purple wrapped around them. Interestingly, these attack shots are used in the final version of the OP.
Which we'll get to in a sec. In the clock version of the OP, we see Crazy Diamond finally fix the Jojo heart that was broken in Chase, and then every other stand takes a pose in turn in an impressive flyby shot. The final pose shows everyone pointing skyward with Raimi once more, still striving towards all caps justice.
But in the third version of the OP, shown after Kira reveals his Bites the Dust power, the song continues, and we're pulled away from justice as Kira reverses time with his stand. Which, much like Time Stop with Dio in the Stardust Crusaders OP, is pretty much the coolest thing ever.
It's so good.
Throughout the OP, the power of Bites the Dust is
It so took me by surprise again. I was like, wow, what's
It's
going on?
interesting how futzing with the flow of time changes the meaning of each shot. For instance, now the Jojo heart breaks apart and reforms multiple times, referencing how Bites the Dust kills every one of the heroes and is then reset a few times over. As we go back, instead of coming together, all of the heroes are split apart and go their separate ways, while darkness descends on each scene, mirroring how the story of the show is reaching its lowest point.
Now the shot of Hayato makes a lot more sense. Killer Queen places the hat on his head, referencing Kira's actions in the time loop, and now we can see that Hayato's being forced to endure the same morning looping over and over. There are way more after images as we zip backwards through the shot of Shinobu. She's left staring at this fake version of her husband that she thinks is real, and then she dies. All according to Keikaku.
Or maybe all foreshadowing her fate as her husband disappears forever at the end of the series, and she's left waiting for him to return with her son.
Jeez, yeah, that's a really sad thought.
About as depressing as this next shot. Darkness descends on the land around the electrical tower as we move back in time, and now the grass around it is dead.
Super dead.
The scene with Rohan also takes on a dark tone as we pull backward through his house. Each time we pull back, the doors close on him, representing his death within the time loop. And instead of 2 doors, we go through 4, the number of loops that occur during Another One Bites the Dust.
As we go back through the city streets, every hero is erased one at a time, and Morio is covered in darkness, making it hard to even see anymore. But even as we pull away and Josuke puts up his last resistance, we reach the sun, and we see that Kira can't escape justice no matter what direction time is flowing. To reinforce this, Reimi's pointer finger still always moves forward in time.
Yeah.
Following that, every stand kicks Kira's ass.
Or do they? Kira's still reversing time.
Well, actually, that's the moment he thinks he's reversing time, only to be beaten to a pulp and then run over by an ambulance.
Yeah,
you
man,
can
that
tell
was
because
like,
at
what?
the end of the OP, as he clicks the button, everyone
They're all
looks
looking at him.
straight at him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got him.
And that's one of the few changes that
got
remains
it.
in the final sound effect version that precedes the final episode. Other than that, all that changes is Kira's hair.
I have to say, I love the effects they chose for this version, though. Like the glass shattering effect when they take their poses.
They
Yeah, that's
definitely
cool.
have fun with these SFX OPs, and I think we all have a lot of fun watching them. But let's step away from the minutia and just take a second to appreciate the way that these 3 OPs build on each other. There's almost a continuity between them. That's
Which is
not
cool.
something that you see every day, even with really great anime that have really great OPs.
Yeah. No, on their own, it's tough to compare these to OPs like End of the World and Sonochino Sarame. But when you take them all together, it's kind of amazing how well they work. It's like they took the whole change the OP at the end concept from Stardust Crusaders and spread it out over the whole series.
And not only is that cool, it's also a great excuse for why it took us to the end of the series and then some to finally make this video. I hope all of you jerks watching appreciate the effort as much as I appreciate your viewership, which is a lot. You guys are amazing, especially those of you who subscribe, leave comments, and share these videos with your friends. And especially those beautiful human beings who help the channel out through Patreon donations. And of course, I've got to thank Woolie for helping me make this thing.
Hey, thanks for having me on,
That's
man.
so
It was
cool.
fun
I
to
like
watch
that Woolie was
Master
on
work.
this.
If you guys enjoyed listening to Woolie's voice, then you can watch him go through the entirety of JoJo Eyes of Heaven over at Super Best Friends.
Or if you want to hear Jeff talk about us some more, you should watch this analysis video, How the Super Best Friends Make Anime Real. It's really good.
But if this is the last video that you watch today, then I'm Jeff Thu,
Oh,
professional
R.I.P.
shitbag.
Best Friends.
Woolie Madden, signing out from Castle Super Beast.
That was really good. That was so cool. And again, I love watching these because I miss stuff. Like, I pick up on stuff, but I miss stuff, and it's cool to have it pointed out. So many cool things go on in those. And again, it is cool that it's continuous narrative going on between the 3 different OPs. And the music was really cool as well. And I really enjoyed part 4. But again, I feel like the second half of part 4 was the best part of it. The first half I thought was a bit slow, but it needed to set up all the different characters and that, and all the different stand users, especially for Kira to be able to go and use the Cinderella one to change his face and that, because that would just come out of nowhere. And yeah, it's just, I loved it, I absolutely loved it, and I will start part 5 after I've watched Mother's Basement's cheat sheet video as a little bit of a recap. I feel like it'll serve, and it'd be interesting to see what he feels like are the key points to know for when going into part 5. So yeah, thank you guys very much for watching. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave comments down below. Let me know what I should watch and discuss in future videos. And I'll see you guys. It's all you guys next time. Bye.